Just 3 days ago, one of somebody I know, the husband also passed away because of COVID. And to claim the body, I can't even see the body. Last final, can't see. And then the hospital said they will handle they arrange for the funeral, something like that. It's very difficult. So now she left alone, a very loving couple. So I think everybody have to be extra careful. As for myself, because now the government announced it's opens and we have to back to office. 60% allowed. So definitely the company won't say that you don't need to go back. So we have to take turn to go back to office. So protections is very important, and of course we ourselves to take care of ourselves actually. So that's what I want to share, because it's getting close. More and more people that we know pass away, Yeah, Sis Angie, I heard about the other Sis Lei Hun's husband, yeah?
You know Sister Lei Hun also, huh?
I doesn't know her, but they said she's SCPA, so...
Yeah. We did, my chanting group did a Bojanga chanting for them last week. Quite a lot.
Last week I joined also.
Oh, sadhu. Last week I couldn't join because I had another session somewhere. But it's carried out by the SJBA, Sister Ingbi, the SJBA chanting leader.
Yeah, SMB, yeah.
Thank you for joining and supporting. Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Okay, yeah, so maybe Terence, you can kick off.
Thank you, Bante. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 20th of July, 2021. We are very grateful to have with us Bante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bante was born on July 14, 1985. He had his Bhikkhu ordination to the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Santi Cross Monastery in Johor in 2008. Bante is currently the religious advisor to Buddhist Youth Network Singapore and has been conducting MSBS Weekly Tuesday Guided Meditation since last year. This week, we will be continuing the topic on the 5 qualities conducive for enlightenment. If you have some topics that you would like Bante to share, do chat on the comments below. Bante will be leading the homage to Buddha and taking a 5 precepts for Buddhists. And now let us compose our minds together and welcome Bante. Over to you, Bante.
Okay, thank you, Terence. So we shall start with the opening chant and the homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. ปานาติปาตาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิอาดินาดานาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิกาเมสุมิจฉาจาราเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิมุสาวาดาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิสุราเมรยามัจจาปมาดาทานาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิสาธุสาธุสาธุ Okay, good evening everyone, and this evening we'll be talking about this 5 qualities again. We've been talking about this topic for a few weeks already, and I think we're coming near to the end of this topic. Yeah? So if you have any suggestions of new topics, any burning questions, anything to discuss, feel free to suggest so that we can explore more. Yeah? Okay, so we move on. Yeah, so again, a quick summary. What are the 5 qualities? They are faith. I will look at the first column on the left: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Right. So we've covered most of the 4 qualities already, and we are already halfway through this wisdom. So last week we talked about how to cultivate, how to develop wisdom. So let's carry on to the how to cultivate wisdom. Yeah, okay, so we covered the first 3, right, about finding a good teacher. In the faith aspect we covered, so now it's more on having, right, this so-called disclosing the faults, disclosing one's errors to the teacher, any blame, right, and respect. Then you can learn more from the teacher. A lot of times when people go to receive teachings, especially in classes, right, then they'll probably go around and brag around and say, okay, I have many teachers, this great teacher, that great teacher, this famous teacher, that popular teacher, but how much does a person learn? Yeah, they just sit through a bit, or they just make an acquaintance, visit the monastery, and then they go tell everyone. And they sort of add to their resume a long list of great teachers they came across. Right? So that's not the way to assess how much you're able to absorb. If it's very superficial, you just attend a few talks, or just say hi bye, or just pay respect, or just offer a bit of stuff, and that is not truly learning. So you require, the next slide, these qualities, right? You need to establish a strong sense of conscience, fear and blame, love and respect to the teacher. Yeah, so conscience means you must able to detect any mistakes, any wrong in the precepts, any wrong in the practice. Must be, your conscience need to be clear, and then you're able to bring out the mistakes and acknowledge and ask for the teacher to rectify or troubleshoot. So this is the at least the minimum criteria, and vice versa. If you find anything doubtful in the teacher, do question. Yeah, so it's a both way kind of relationship. So this way, both ways improve, right? So when I teach, I also improve. You ask questions, I need to prepare all these slides and all. So it's a win-win situation. Okay, next. All right, so then we talk about 2 kinds of seclusion. We talked about it last week, and in the one of the previous series on last year on seclusion, right kinds of seclusion. So we talk about the right kind of technique, how to practice the middle way and stay off from extremes. If a person is, although physically secluded or in isolation or in lockdown, but the mind can be all over the place, very unhappy. So you need the proper instruction, proper teaching, proper technique on how to make the mind contented and secluded. So this is not just theoretically hearing the Dhamma, you need the instruction, you need to practice, and sometimes even need to go back to the teacher again, or sometimes multiple times to troubleshoot. Sometimes we call this interview, right? And next. Okay, so now we talk a bit more on the your own sets of practice. Earlier on, it's more on the communication part, and the seclusion also again is your own kind of practice. And now it's when you, even if you're living in seclusion or in a crowd or with people, the whole idea is you need to be virtuous. Right? The whole Eightfold Path is not just about meditation, not just about closing your eyes and watching your breath or whatever you do, and that's it. No, it's about a holistic package, your behavior as well. What kind of speech, what kind of action, so it complements in the cultivation, right? So they normally say this in the Dhammapada, the first two verses, mind is the forerunner. Mind is the forerunner, right? So if a person thinks or acts with impure mind, and it's like a shadow or like an ox, or like a cart following an ox. So a person's behavior, if it's bad or negative, it stems from an impure mind. So the mind has negative thoughts, negative intention, then it will manifest through your body and speech. So if a person tries to start from looking at the body first, sometimes the mind too hard to detect. The mind very fast, the mind lots of thought moments, very hard to detect. So the gross weight or the base minimum denominator is to first look at the physical behavior. So if you can able to reflect your physical behavior, then you can slowly start to trace back to the mind. Okay, so we talk about if a person is virtuous, he dwells restrained in accordance with the Patimokkha. So this Patimokkha is the monastic rules. So for a layperson like you, is 5 precepts. Yeah? Consummate in his or her behavior and sphere of activity. He trains himself or herself, having undertaken the training rules, seeing danger in the slightest faults. So whatever you do, or whatever you say, right, always be aware. So there's, again, this is actually, you can take it 2 ways. You can take it to extremes, right? If a person is, let's say, having a fault-finding mind, and everything you do, you can't see it wrong, can't see it wrong. Then if you do it for the sake of not making errors, then that is one extreme. And the other extreme is not caring at all. And you just do whatever you want, total freedom, and you just make mistakes and don't care. So these are the both extremes we should try to avoid. So if one person wants to practice this morality in the middle way, then we talk about a kind of meditation. There's this thing called Sila Nusati, mindfulness of the precepts. So it's all about, if you want to enter a scenario, a situation where you need to do something, and it's sometimes a moral gray area, and you might sort of break the precept, something might be tempting, then you remind yourself, hey, I'm going to break my precept, then from there, then you're creating mindfulness. Not because you are afraid for the sake of being afraid. Yeah, so this is, the precept is actually a helping tool to raise one's mindfulness. Yeah, to raise one's mindfulness. So it's good to observe the precepts well, but the objective in mind is to train one's right thought, train one's intention, right? Not for the sake of like being a good citizen, don't let the police catch. whatever you do wrong, don't let the police catch. Not for that, yeah. Or some people practice, let's say religious precepts, even for Buddhism. I don't want to do wrong so that I won't get bad karma and go to hell. Don't go to the hell realm. So if you observe precepts for the sake of this, I won't say it's bad, but it's not very wholesome. Yeah, not very pleasant kind of practice. Yeah, so it's kind of very restrictive, very fearful, and not a very nice environment to train. So if a person has the intention to be a better person, to be a pure person, for the benefit of all these, so you set your motivation right, and whatever you do, then it becomes a joyful practice. A joyful practice. So very important. First is motivation, and the intention is right. Then this practice of the precepts will definitely be very joyful. So I'm not sure about how others practice, but interestingly, in the commentaries of the Patimokkha, that means for the monastic rules. Let's say, for example, for the case of stealing, let's say you see a nice object 20 steps in front of you, and then let's say a person has the intention to steal the object. So every time he walks closer to the object, every step the person takes with the intention to steal, although they haven't stolen yet, that incurs a minor offense. So this is the monastic rule. They call it a dukkata offense. So that's why the monastics you have to confess every 2 weeks. Right? Sometimes you didn't do it, but you may have just a slight intention that arises, and then you're about to execute it. You walk closer to it or take certain actions before executing, also an offense. So many offenses. So every 2 weeks need to confess and confess and confess. So some places they even confess every day. Yeah, to find another monk who you will confess. But in our morning or evening chanting, we do have this daily confession. So it's part of the syllabus, part of the content in the evening chanting, especially the Thai formula. Okay, then we shall move on. Right, so, okay. Yeah, so before I move on to this, then we talk about, if a person wants to talk about finding fault, is about finding fault within oneself. Finding fault within oneself. Let's say you live in a community, let's say you have a household of more than a few people, or at least one more person, then try not to pick fault with others. Try not to pick fault with others. If let's say they are practicing Buddhist also, you don't everything also to try to find fault. But let's say it's very serious, when the time is right, then do ask, hey, on this occasion, may I know why do you say this, or why do you do this thing? Can you share a bit about context? It may be some misunderstanding. So sometimes you need to sort of put it in a way, in a manner that is open to discussion. You don't straight accuse, hey, you do this wrong, something like that, yeah. So, sometimes can be false accusation. The other party might be taking it as a kind of attack, right? Then it might cause disharmony. Right? So it's important for a precept, it's more on self-reflection. Right? Even if, let's say, it's a fault finding between other persons, between the teacher and the student. Unless you are very close with certain kalyana mitta, certain close friends, then you do request from each other, hey, if I do anything wrong next time, must tell me as a friend. Then yes, by all means. But even sometimes friend-to-friend basis, sometimes if you too fault-finding, too picky, then sometimes your friends might leave you also. So sometimes have to say things at the right time. Okay, so we move on to the next factor. Number number 5. Yeah, he has heard much, has restrained what he has heard, has taught what he has heard. Whatever teachings are admirable in the beginning, admirable in the middle, admirable in the end, that in their meaning and expression proclaim the holy life that is entirely complete and pure. Those he has listened to often retain, discuss, accumulate, examine with his mind, and well penetrated in terms of his views. Okay, so that means in your company of Kalyana Mittas, your spiritual friends, right? It's good to discuss what kind of Dhamma teachings you heard before. So make sure you remember correctly. But nowadays, most of the teachings or the scriptures are sort of online already. So you can actually, if you're not sure, you can Google, did I remember wrongly? Then you can double check the teachings. Then you can discuss with friends. Sometimes we talk about fact checking, and then sometimes whatever the teachers say, then you also Google and see whether the person teach wrongly or not. And so sometimes it's good to clarify. Sometimes it may be us or the student or the teacher interpret it wrongly. So it's good to double check because some things may not be very straightforward. Yeah, like what if, let's say, you read the Four Noble Truths the first time, you may interpret it in a certain way, and after some years later you read it again, then you have total different meaning, and you interpret it in a total different manner. So again, some things, if you discuss, then it might change one's perspective and helps in a different kind of interpretation, and hopefully for the better. Yeah. So admirable in the beginning means the precepts and behavior, and admirable in the middle, talking about mental cultivation, the concentration, and admirable in the end is talking about the wisdom aspect, right? The kind of contemplation leading to the rising of wisdom. So now we're actually covering like almost everything in, at least in theory. Right, so next. Okay, number 6. He keeps his persistence aroused for abandoning unskillful mental qualities and for taking on skillful mental qualities. He is steadfast, solid in his effort, not shirking his duties with regard to skillful mental qualities. So number 6, back to right effort. So all the 5 qualities are all interrelated. Right? So the first 2 qualities, we talk about faith, having being open to your teacher, declaring your mistakes, and inviting the teacher to troubleshoot. And the now we talk about effort. And we also talk about morality, sila. Yeah. So now everything all starts to come together. So wisdom is not just about knowing the teaching, reading some books, and that's it. No, so once you, the dangers of reading by yourself is that sometimes you interpret wrongly. So that's why I talk about discussing with your Kalyana Mitta, discussing with teachers, having Q&A sessions, so that you can sort of troubleshoot. So the next one is this effort. Yeah. So once you come with a right understanding, then you apply. You need to apply, because like I always like to mention, if you come for a Dhamma class or even a meditation class, you have the right thought for just one moment. Yeah, this person say makes sense. And if you just stop there, then your mind goes back to square one, back to normal, just like before you come for a Dhamma class. Scattered mind or deluded mind or a mind full of worry here and there, then no big difference. So once you have a certain understanding, then you need to keep on reflecting and reflecting and reflecting. Not theoretically, but repeating this right thought so that the mind can be able to calm down. So what are we investigating? We're actually investigating the phenomenon. What is it like when the mind calms down? What is it like when the mind clings, when the mind develops stress or tension. So this is the observable phenomenon that we should be investigating. But in terms of thinking, it's not just about thinking and romanticizing or the philosophy and the concepts. That's not the kind of reflection we are talking about. Yeah? So this is more of the academic kind of intellectualization. And that isn't the kind of wisdom that we're trying to develop. Yeah. Okay, and number 7, when he is in the midst of the Sangha, he doesn't talk on and on about a variety of things. Either he speaks Dhamma himself or he invites another to do so. And he feels no disdain for noble silence. Right? So if a person, normally monastics, we have this, again, a monastic rule, we cannot suka-suka speak Dhamma. Right? If I want to speak or share, I must be invited first. So like Terence invite me for this session, then I share. Right? We cannot suka-suka go to a coffee shop and say, hey, you must believe in triple gem, you know. If not, you'll be reborn in the lower realms. So might be offensive to those who are not ready to listen. So you need to get invited. That means the listener is willing to learn. So when a person can be any of your Kalyana Mittas invite you to share, hey, what have you learned today from so and so Dhamma talk? Then you share what have you experienced through for the past week, and you can share, no problem, right? So the monastic, same thing, except if the amongst the monastics, they are the most senior. The most senior monastic can initiate Dhamma talk without invitation. So sometimes if you look at the suttas, sometimes the Buddha just speak on his own. Yeah? The monks never invite him. When the monks in a crowd, in a group, and the Buddha feel like speaking, he just speak because he's the founder of this religion, right? So and he's being the founder, he's the most senior. So the monks measure seniority by the duration they ordain, not by the physical age. Yeah? So if a person is, let's say, he enters the monastic life at the age of 60, then you see a younger person at the age of maybe 21 years old. But then the person 21 years old, he ordained at 20. So he ordained for 1 year already. So that 21-year-old monk is more senior than the 60-year-old monk that just ordained. So it measured by the duration they ordained. But to be more technical, it's the number of vasas, the number of rains retreat they have spent. So every year there's only one rains retreat, so basically it's like every year. Okay, so vice versa. So if the person is curious, if you are curious to find out from your other Kalyana Mittas, what have you learned so far, or you have certain things you are not sure, you want to learn, you want to find out more, then please do not feel shy to invite. Yeah, do not feel shy to invite. So this is interestingly the problem amongst monastics even. Yeah. Okay. Next. Yes. Sometimes as a lay organization, sometimes only the organizers know the protocol of inviting the monastics to teach. So the rest of the participants, they don't know. Sometimes they might think, hey, it's the monastic duty to teach Ma, or the speaker's duty to teach Ma. It's their responsibility. So they're just waiting. So sometimes they go to the temple, and the temple, nobody teach them. Hey, what is the monk doing? How come they never teach? And then they complain. You must invite. If you don't have to organize. Sometimes it can be just one-to-one, just question. You have certain Dhamma question in mind. If you don't have the resources to organize like a class for people to register and attend, no problem. You just ask on a personal basis. Just go up and ask a monastic or the Dhamma teacher, I have certain doubt in this Dhamma, then no problem, they will just answer. So this is the monastic protocol. Hopefully can clear some of certain misunderstanding. Yeah. Okay, then the final one. Okay, now it's 9 o'clock. I think I quickly go through. Okay, he remains focused on arising and passing away with regard to the 5 aggregates, such as form, such as origination, such as disappearance. Right, so very similar to the Maha Satipatthana, we talk about 4 foundations of mindfulness, such as feeling, such as perception, such as fabrication, such as consciousness. So basically all the 5 aggregates. Yeah, it's origination and disappearance. So the whole idea is ultimately to develop wisdom. One should be able to eventually observe this. So all the preconditions, finding a teacher, learning the Dhamma, learning from your peers, sort of exchanging with each other, observing your precepts well. So all these leads to eventually able to observe this arising, passing away. That doesn't mean that this one has to be last. Right? If you can do it right from the start, by all means, do it. If you can do it right from the start, then when you see a teacher, you can also observe this, no problem. Yeah, and if you talk to your spiritual friends, discuss your spiritual friends, you can also observe this, no problem. Part of right mindfulness. Okay, so any more slides after this? Oh yeah, okay, no more slides. So we officially end this series of talk on this topic, 5 qualities. So we're going to start a new chapter next week. Do feel free to suggest any topics you all have in the Q&A segment. So now I open the floor to Q&A. Any questions, anything that you're not sure so far we've covered? Anyone? Very straightforward, eh? How about Terence? Any comments on the Facebook? Okay, if not, then we shall proceed on with the 5-minute break. You can do a stretching, go to the washroom, and also have to think of any suggestions you want. If not, I can just impose my own topic, and it might not interest you. Okay, so we go for this 5-minute break. Now it's 9:03 on my clock. See you back at 9:08 for the guided meditation. Okay, now it's 9:08. Let's wait for. Oh yes, question by Paging. So Paging is back. So it's a question with reference to the 5 qualities. How can we better communicate with egotistical people who always think they are right? If they think they're right, that means they're not ready to listen, so no need to share. It's also part of our, I'm not sure about layperson, but for monastic rules, I think I mentioned before, there are 16 rules when sharing or teaching Dhamma. So if the other person, the listener, is not ready to listen, then you don't share, don't have to share. Yeah. So if they are more egotistical, the example in the precepts would be giving, if a person is standing higher than you or seated higher than you, cannot teach them. Yeah, so they're using metaphors. Yeah. So if, let's say, the person's state of mind or ego is way up high, and no matter how you say, they cannot hear you, cannot even see you, and no point. And you need to wait for them to be lowered, and then it's more convenient to teach. So I think in the previous series on the talk on multi-traditions, same liberation, we talk about a story of this very senior intellectual monk, very academic monk, but he's not enlightened. Right? So he needs to be schooled by a very young boy, a young novice monk who is enlightened. How to teach him how to reach enlightenment. So this young boy, in order to lower the ego of this older monk, asked him to do all kinds of funny things, roll on the mud, run here and there, until once he obey every instruction, then the Samanera, the novice monk, start to teach some Dhamma. So not easy, yeah. So that's why we have lots of rituals, like before the Dhamma talk. I mean, traditional Buddhist setting, lots of bowing. As a bowing is at least there's some psychological kind of imprint for a person to be lower, so that more receptive to receiving the teachings. And there's another question. If there's different opinions among, the question's halfway, and the second sentence, how the Sangha community settle different opinions nowadays? Again, different, many factors, many conditions, depending on the skillfulness of each individual. Sometimes a community may not be trained in maybe civic conversation, very, depends on the criteria. So it's sometimes if people are have certain high EQ, they're able to solve the problem, able to talk amicably and be diplomatic. Some places may not have that many kind of people, so they may have lots of quarrels. So one good example is in the Buddha's time. I'm now residing in Palelai temple, so I always, sometimes when there are tour groups coming to Palelai, we always say this story. We have this image of the Palelai Buddha, and there's elephant and a monkey statue feeding Buddha, offering food to the Buddha. So how did the Buddha end up in this place in the first place? So he's having his retreat in this Palelai forest, because the Thai people cannot pronounce Palelai, so that's why they call it Palelai. So now our temple is called Palelai temple. So how did the Buddha end up there? Is because there's a group of monks in this certain monastery in Kosambi. They're having a quarrel. There's a monk, after he used the toilet, he flushed already, never fill up the water. So last time it's not the automatic system. You need to go to the well and fill up the water. So because he never filled the water, the next monk that entered, no water, cannot use to flush. So they had an argument, because there are monastic rules in like daily life, like cleanliness of the place, even toilets also have monastic rules. So the monks had a quarrel, what kind of offense, is it a minor offense, is it a serious offense? So they had a discussion back and forth, and they find fault with the monk. They never feel, and sometimes there's misunderstanding the rules. The other monk will think the next monk should be that enters should be the one filling the water. So they had this argument here and there. And when there are more visitor monks coming by the place, then the argument that became bigger and bigger. So the monks that visited take sides. So there are more of these two camps. So as it grew bigger and bigger, and again, there's this monastic rule which you mentioned. In order to create a schism, you need at least 4 monks in one side of the camp, 4 monks in one side of the argument. So they almost had a schism, they had a quarrel, had a big argument, disagreement with the rules. And the Buddha happened to pass by this place, and the Buddha asked them to stop. A small issue, just a toilet issue, stop arguing. And the monks tell the Buddha, please do not enter into our argument. We let us settle by ourselves. So they continue arguing. So the Buddha, okay, since you want to argue, then he left the place and he went to this forest for a retreat. So the lay community, the villagers that offered daily alms to the monks came to know that the Buddha also left. So they decided to boycott the monks. So when the monks go for alms round, they never give food. So the monks grew hungry. So when they're hungry, then they woke up the idea, so went to the Buddha, asked for forgiveness, admitted their mistake. Everybody came back and happily ever after. So that's how the Buddha solved the problem. If they're not ready to listen to you, then don't talk to them. It's okay. Don't need to talk to them. Yeah. So even the Buddha's disciple also don't listen to the Buddha. All right. So that's the we call people politics, Sangha community in the Buddha's time. Yeah. So this is one spectrum, one end of the spectrum. There, of course, there are those who are. There are some good examples. The Buddha even praised certain monastic. They talk only when necessary. Other than that, always noble silence. And because once, the more you talk, the more problem. Yeah, so the community always practice noble silence. So only when there's, that's why even in the Mangala Sutta, have Dhamma, timely Dhamma discussion. So only in the new and full moon days, after the Patimokkha or before the Patimokkha, then they bring up certain issues, a certain topic, and then they discuss. Yeah. So every place they practice differently. Okay, hopefully that answers the question for Chan. Any other questions? I think he typed one question halfway. How about the rest? Any other issues? Okay, if there's no issues, then we can proceed on with the meditation. So we find comfortable sitting position. Make sure the back is upright. And body relaxed. And we're starting off with the first phase of meditation, detachment on the parts of the body. So we are first going to wish all the hairs from head to toe well and happy. And every time you visualize a new area of hair, then you need to produce a new thought, well and happy. New area, new patch of hair, may they be well and happy. So the whole idea is to keep the mind active, never leave the mind idle. And then we're going to introduce thoughts of non-greed, which is impermanence. So we think of all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of hairs growing and falling, and in many birth and death cycles, the more the merrier. Is birth and death of the hair. It's one aspect of observing arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. So there's like image kind of form, growing and falling off, always impermanence. And that itself is actually a kind of perception. You call it a hair, you call it old age, and you call it birth and death. So all these are labels, perception. So when you pay attention to this visualization, that's actually the mind or consciousness. And every second, every moment, when you think in a change of image, requires a mental formation. And there might be also change in feeling. That you find, oh, this hair growing, become old, is it disgusting? Is it pleasant? Is it disgusting? So feelings also change. So it's actually 5 in 1. So any Dhamma door, there's always 5 aggregates. Everything we perceive. And there's the whole samsara is actually made of these 5 aggregates. So this practice, we are not training the hairs, yeah? So these are not qigong, we are not strengthening the hair, revitalizing the hair. We're actually training to detach from the hairs. Okay, and we are going to ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Can we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death? And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the nails, fingernails and toenails. May they be well and happy. And thoughts of non-hatred. Then we can introduce thoughts of non-greed. All these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, death. So they grow, they age, they wear and tear, and they fall off. So you think of the growing and falling of your nails many, many times. Many, many birth and death cycles. And the more the better. And we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? And the next part of the body, we are going to visualize the teeth. We're going to wish all the teeth well and happy. And so loving kindness is very important. A lot of meditators, regardless of whatever meditation they do, be it this kind of visualization for the Asukha practice, or even chanting, or even watching the breath, and they have this violent tendency to push the mind or make the mind conform to a certain expectation. They want the mind to be peaceful or not run away. So when they force and push, that is an act of violence. Yeah, so actually softening the mind and loving kindness. Because once you exert a push, then that is craving, desire. And the only thing that comes out of it is more tension, more stress. Okay, and all these teeth are subject to birth, aging, decay, and passing away. So the teeth, the bone cells, they would go through wear and tear, and they grow and fall off, grow and fall off. So you think of the birth and death cycle many, many times. And we can question ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death? And the next part of the body, we're going to visualize the skin from head to toe. We're going to wish all the skin well and happy. And skin is also a relatively large area. Every time you think of a new area of skin, you need to wish it well and happy. And a new patch of skin, well and happy. New patch of skin, well and happy. And all the skin are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. And so they keep growing and falling off, growing and falling off. And we think of the birth and death cycles many, many times. And the more the merrier. And we can ask ourselves, are this skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through birth and death? And the next phase of meditation, we are no longer doing this visualization. We are now using the sense of feel, feel the sensations. And we are now going to wish all beings in front be well and happy. So you just feel the direction in front. No need to exert or push your mind. Just a gentle wish. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish may all beings behind be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we can wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish may all beings on the right be well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And now we wish may all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we are going to wish may all beings below well and happy. And come back to ourselves. So this time around, we're going to wish the entire body from head to toe well and happy. So that includes the insides of the body, and no need to purposely create the sensation, right? As long as new sensation arising by itself, you just wish it well and happy. No need to cling to it, and no need to reject or push it away. So new sensation arise, well and happy, new sensation arise, well and happy. Okay, then we suffuse this whole body with loving kindness, and remember this emotion. Take note. So this is a restricted form of loving kindness. And next we are going to cultivate boundless loving kindness. And we are going to wish all beings in all directions, may they be well and happy. So again, no need to push your mind, no need to visualize, just a gentle wish. And wherever your attention lands, it can be within the body or outside the body, right? As long as there's any sensation arising, we wish it well and happy. Right? So all sensations, all thought formations, all dharmas, all sentient beings. So in short, new sensation arise, well and happy. New sensation arise, wish it well and happy. So the more right thoughts you generate, more loving kindness, and the calmer the mind should get. So this generating loving kindness is a bit like boiling water. Yeah? So every time you think of loving kindness, you are producing the fire to boil the water. So sometimes we feel peaceful, nice sensations, or very pleasant emotion, then we just stay there and we forget to generate this loving kindness. And it's like forgetting to turn on the fire. And we see a bit of smoke, and we stop. But we haven't boiled the water. Okay, and you can take note of this state of mind. Of course, you can boil further or longer at your own free time, but due to the short duration, we just take note this is loving kindness through the concentration route, through the samatha practice of metta. And now we are adding some wisdom and some insight into this practice, and we are now observing the impermanence of all sensations. So all the sensations that arise, they also pass away. So this is loving kindness with detachment. So very similar process, whatever experience you may think you have, whatever sensation that you've experienced, please do not let go of this impermanence. Always be mindful of this arising and passing of all the phenomena. So we are actually investigating this thing. Yeah, we're not investigating the intellectualization part of the Dhamma, but the experiential part. So all the emotional changes, just treat them as passing sceneries of a driveway. And you just continue your journey with this impermanence. So in the path of insight or wisdom, regardless of whatever meditation object you're using, it will eventually, lead to this stage of peace or equanimity. So the joyful or happy kind of feeling in the earlier kind of loving kindness will as though like dissipate, get lesser and lesser. So that's fine. That's part of the process. And we can move on to the second sublime state, which is compassion. And we're starting from the bottom again, through this concentration route. We are going to wish all beings, may they be free from suffering. So we no need to over dramatize any particular kind of scenario, any story, or this so and so person is starving or is getting sick. So we are, no, that is a circular kind of compassion. So what we're doing is concentration, kind of compassion. We are observing the here and now, moment to moment arising sensations. So every time a new sensation arises, may it be free from suffering. New sensation arises, may it be free from suffering. Yeah, so this is a recharging kind of compassion. And the circular kind of compassion is very draining and dissipate all the energy. And if you do it for too long, you can get depression. So I'm not saying circular compassion is bad, you need it in your daily life. You need to execute certain activities, you need to use this circular compassion. So what we're actually discovering is the concentrated kind of compassion, when you compare, is that circular kind of compassion, you may generate the right kind of compassion for the first few moments. And down the line, basically, thoughts of worrying. You worry about this, worry about that, and it no longer becomes compassion. So it kind of drains the mind. But when we're doing the here and now kind of compassion, every moment arising sensations, we're actually sort of decluttering all the baggage. Every time we think of a new thought of compassion, we are refreshing the mind. And you can take note of this emotion of compassion through concentration can be quite uplifting, quite joyful. If the mind just stays with secular compassion, sometimes may end up being very depressing. And the next stage is to add some wisdom, some insight into this compassion, is to truly be free from suffering. Wishing is not good enough, so you need to take steps to free yourself from suffering. So that is actually to detach from all formations, all dharmas, all sensations. So they all arise and pass away. So we keep observing the birth and death, all the sensations. And similarly, whatever sensations or experience or emotions you may have that arise, just treat it as passing scenery, carry on the journey with impermanence. So this journey is actually a very, very long journey to the final goal. So most of the time we always backtrack. We travel the right direction, and every time we cling onto something, then we head back the opposite direction. Okay, and the next sublime state we are practicing is this appreciative joy. We are going to wish all beings not be separated from what they have attained or what they have achieved. So we kind of rejoice in all of their achievements. So similarly, no dramatization, we just observe the here and now arising moments. Yeah. So all beings, including ourselves, achieve or gain experience from the accumulation of every moment. So every time a new sensation arises, we rejoice. And then we can remember this appreciative joy through this concentrative route, this emotion, and we will add some wisdom or insight. Is that all beings have to be separated from all that is dear and appealing to us. So similarly, all experiences, all sensations, they come and go. And we observe its birth and death of all the sensations. And every time you have this spiritual joy or kind of rejoicing or spiritual peace, and that is also a cause for rejoicing. And we try to maintain these boundless immeasurables, be it standing, walking, sitting, lying down, and now in the state of rejoicing, and we can rejoice its merits and also ask all other beings to rejoice in these merits. So now we can conclude this meditation session. And if you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, any questions or issues at the moment?
Bhante, I have one.
Yeah.
Okay, regarding the second sublime state, which is compassion. Because you guide us that the compassion that we use during meditation is the concentrative compassion.
Yeah.
That is just simply to mentally verbalize, may all beings be free from suffering. That's it. There's no need for all those picturing, no need to picture those starving, emaciated people in impoverished country. There's no need for that.
No need for that.
Okay. What do I want to ask? Okay. Because I was very used to the Mahasi method, the Mahasi Vipassana method, when during the retreat I joined many years ago. My meditation teacher back then, he taught us that when pain comes, this is when dealing with external pain during the meditation. When pain arises, just simply observe pain of what it is. Simply observe the changing magnitude of the pain. How the pain is like. Is it throbbing, or is it excruciating, like being sliced with a knife? So when we experience the external pain during the meditation, just like every time during sitting, the pain always come, especially at my fit because I sit too long, and plus that I'm overweight. Probably the pressure of my weight is the reason that compresses the muscle probably. When the pain come, my automatic response is that because my teacher back then thought that if we surrender to the pain, it's a form of greed. It's a form of greed because we crave for the relief of ending the pain. So my teacher back then, he teaches us that when pain comes, be patiently observe it, do not surrender to it. So if I deny myself the relief, because my body was crying, my body was crying for help. My body was begging me to shift the leg because my body was suffering in excruciating pain. So if I deny my body to shift the body, am I not showing compassion to myself? Because I was I was verbally I was mentally verbalizing, may all beings be free from suffering. That is to extend compassion to other beings, but I do not extend compassion to myself to relieve myself from that pain. So am I being a hypocrite at this point?
Okay, so there's another component. The verbalization part is the second component. The first component is the observable phenomenon. So if let's say any painful sensation that arise or any pleasant sensation that arise, you need to also wish it free from suffering. Right? So if let's say you apply the right thought already, and then it's still excruciating no matter how much you apply and whatever you do, then I think it's good to to shift. That means the mind, how do you call it? You need certain moderation. Yeah, you need certain moderation. I'm not sure about the style that you learned, right? But often when meditators, when they hit this roadblock and they try all means, then the next result is to the default programming will be aversion. They fight it with anger. So the more they sit, the more agitated, more angry. Yeah, the more aversion they have. And instead of creating more wholesome karma, they're just producing more unwholesome karma. So that isn't skillful means. So if that at that point, if you really need to shift, you try all your means already, then by all means, please shift. Yeah, because training is gradual. We are not robots or Superman. Yeah, so we have a limit to the body. We need to move. So even the Buddha himself, he also moved. Yeah, he has backache. He needs to lie down or he needs to do walking meditation. So this is nature.
Yes, and good thing you do not have psychic powers. Otherwise, you're going to hear me screaming.
Okay. Any other issues or questions? Okay, there's a question. Every time when I wish made me well and happy on the spot of my sensation, itchy pain, etc., it will disappear. Then good for you. Yeah, so at least there's calming of physical and mental fabrication. Yeah, so this is also part of the called the breath meditation, the steps. Yeah, so once you apply the right thought, then these things will calm down. But of course, this is impermanent. Yeah, we are not robots. After you sit longer, definitely pain will come. Whatever position you sleep long, also pain will come. You stand long, also pain will come. That's the nature of the body. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no questions, then we end the session. Okay, Anumodana, dedication of merits. Akasata cha bhumata devanaga mahitika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakatu lokasasanam etavata cha amhihi sampada punya sampada sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe sata anumodantu sabba sappadi siddhya. Transference of merits to departed. Idam vinyatina hotu, sukita hotu nyatayo. Idam vinyatina hotu, sukita hotu nyatayo. Idam vinyatina hotu, sukita hotu nyatayo. And aspiration, imina punya kamena, mame bala samagamo. Sata samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, there we end the session and see you all next week. So if you want to come up with a new topic, you can do so now, type in the chat. If not, I will come up with a new topic. Okay. Any announcement from Terence?
No announcement, but
Okay, if not, then good night. See you all next week.
Thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, sadhu.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you,
No
Bante.
problem.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, take care.
Take care.
Good night, Bante.
Night.